We've been talking about psychophysiological illnesses and how 70 to 90% of all illnesses are thought to be related to psychological factors. And we've been talking about how stress affects each of these different systems or organs in the body. And the reason why we can definitely understand that 70 to 90%, such a high figure, can be related to stress is because the way that stress affects the immune system. So, the immune system is a system of cells in the body that is designated to fight off invaders and to protect us from illnesses and anything that comes in that's kind of foreign. And these are some well known immune system cells. So, what happens when we're not stressed, when our parasympathetic nervous system is activated, is we have extra resources that can kind of build up our immunities, um, that can make more of these cells. But when we're stressed out, all of our energy and resources are going away from building the cells and going towards, keeping the heart rate up, keeping the glucose high, feeding the muscles, so on and so forth. So our energy is going outward rather than inward. And so, if you think of it just like an army, in times when we have plenty and we can just build them lots of resources, we can build our army. But when we're under attack from others, maybe our resources are low or something like that, then what happens is our armies get weakened, and that's what happens under stress. So they have this syndrome that's associated with it. It's called the general adaptation syndrome. And it was supposedly conceived of by this guy named Hans Selye. And it's a funny story about how he supposedly came up with it. He was bad with rats. And in a lot of the psychology labs, they study things with rats. But he was really bad with them. He was very nervous about them and he didn't handle them correctly. And so he's trying to study this cow hormone and how it affects the rats, this pancreatic hormone or something. And he comes back and they have all these illnesses and their adrenal medulla is enlarged, indicating that they've been under a lot of stress. And so he says, "Oh, okay, that's what this pancreatic hormone does. Is it creates this whole response in the body, and this is what's responsible for it." But of course, he has to do a control group, and his control group had the same thing. And he's like, okay, so why would the control group who didn't get this hormone have the same response as this? So a fellow laboratory lab mate comes in and sees him handling the rats and says, "Oh gosh, you're terrible with them. You're just so nervous. You stressing these rats out. I think what's causing this response is the way you're handling them." And sure enough, they did kind of stressed rats versus rats that were not stressed, and they saw this response. And so that's kind of how he came up with this whole general adaptation syndrome. So what happens is when we get under stress, our initial evaluation of something. So they talk about this as the primary appraisal and the secondary appraisal. So the first time that you see a situation, it's called the primary appraisal. Did you evaluate it as positive, negative, or neutral? And when we basically, whenever we have to change, that causes stress. So our body likes us to kind of just go along at a certain rate with a very small amount of change. And when we're forced to change a lot, it could be a positive thing or a negative thing, then we feel stress. So when we evaluate it as positive, it's kind of a eustress. But when we evaluate it as negative, it's kind of a distress. So you've evaluated something as this has some negative to it. So you have an alarm reaction where all of this stuff that we've been going over, your heart raises, your lungs open, your pupils dilate, your digestion stops, your intestinal stops, everything is going to change a little bit. But then what will happen is the body will adjust to the stress. So the alarm reaction is your initial response to stress. You got that whole sympathetic response that we've been talking about for this entire module. Then what happens after a while is your body goes into a stage of resistance. And when you go into a stage of resistance, your body has adapted to it and you no longer feel the stress. You're still under stress, but you no longer feel it because your body has like geared up its resources. Like, okay, we can do this. Kind of like running, like when you're running, yeah, at the beginning you start to feel tired, but then once your body gets into it, you're like, oh, I'm not even feeling tired at all. And then, but if you push yourself way too hard, then you go into exhaustion. And that's what happens with the stress response is usually college students have a tendency to get sick around finals week. Some people get sick before finals week, some sick actually at finals, and some they go into an exhaustion right after finals. They get through it and they go into exhaustion. And that's because what happens is that you had the alarm reaction at the beginning of the semester, then your body went into resistance, and then in the final portion of the class, all of a sudden you're putting on an extra load and the body just says, oh my gosh, I've already given you all I can give. I can't take anymore. So what happens is that's why this is how stress weakens the immune system. This whole general adaptation syndrome, the stress can lead to illness. But stress does not necessarily have to lead to illness. It's the way that we think about stress. And this final topic that I'm bringing up right here has got to be one of my favorites out of the entire class. I love this topic. It's the topic of hardiness. So I don't know if any of you have ever bought a plant before, maybe at a nursery or something, and they have those plastic sticks. And on those plastic sticks, you'll see this word. It says hardiness. And what hardiness refers to with the plants is it refers to how well the plant can just thrive under diverse environments, under diverse situations, under diverse factors. And that's what hardiness means for us too, is how well can we thrive under adversity. And they found that people who can thrive under adversity, they have these three traits or these three behaviors. So we started this entire module about success, is what do you need in order to be successful? And I'd like to finish this module by saying I really and truly believe that you can design the life that you want. If you took the time to write down, this is exactly what I want out of life. And this is what I want. I truly believe that you can get it, but you need to have this hardiness. So let's see what this hardiness is. Let's see if you have it already. Maybe you do, or maybe it's something that you need to cultivate within yourself by adopting a different mindset. So the first thing is control. So the type of control that hardy people have is the control that's discussed by the serenity prayer. Grant me the serenity, the peacefulness, to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So people who are hardy, they understand there's certain things that they can't control and they don't waste their energy on it. So I always ask my classes, I say, okay, I want you to think about something that upset you this week. Now, was it something you could control or was it something you could not control? So people who are hardy, they seem to understand that you have a limited amount of mental energy and they don't waste their mental energy on things that they can't control. They use their mental energy for only the things that they can control. So the next time something's out of your control, maybe you can look at it and say, you know what, I have no control over that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my energy and I'm going to work on the things that I can control to make my life the way I want. The next thing is people who are hardy, they have a sense of commitment. They're not going to give up. And I truly think that whatever you want in life, you can get it but you have got to be committed. You're probably going to face many obstacles. You're probably going to fail many, many times. But those of you that just hang in there, I'm going to keep going back. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. I truly believe that you will get it, because people who are hardy, they just say, nope, I'm not going to give up. This is what I'm going to get, and I will do whatever it takes. The final thing is people who are hardy, they see obstacles, they see obstacles as challenges. Instead of seeing it as an obstacle, my path is blocked, they see it as, oh, this is a challenge. It's like a puzzle piece. I just have to solve it, or life will never give me something that I can't overcome. That which does not kill me will only make me stronger. Oh, I'm brought to my knees, but when I get back up, my legs are going to get stronger. So they adopt that notion of, okay, this is a challenge, but this challenge is going to bring me a gift that I could not get any other way. Everything is as it should be. So, adopting this notion of this is a challenge, this is a good thing, stress is good, stress is helping me, changes the whole stress response. So, I hope you've enjoyed this lecture, and I hope that this hardiness, this topic of hardiness especially, impacts you so that you go for whatever it is that you desire.